Alright guys, if you've been watching my channel, you know I run a bunch of cattle up here in the mountains of Colorado, and a good cattle guy needs a good cattle truck. And with a cattle truck, basically my truck of choice is a Dodge Ram 3500. Very essential to have a pretty heavy duty truck, and as part of that I need to do oil changes on a regular basis. And I basically bought some oil today and stopped at I stop at O'Reilly for my oil. And I'd say an oil change for this truck typically costs, I'd say probably about $75 to change the oil. And the oil was on sale today. I picked up, it basically takes 3 gallons of oil and a filter. And today it ran me about $50. And that's actually cheaper than most, believe it or not, because since I'm using 3 times as much oil, I actually have oil changes 3 times less often. So I actually change my oil about every 10,000 miles on this truck, which is pretty incredible. And if you figure $50 between 3 oil changes, that's less than $20 for your traditional oil change, if you figure kind of an equivalent between the two. So today I'm going to show you how I do an oil change. It's really fast, really easy. I'd say by far on this truck, it is by far one of the easiest oil changes I've ever done in my life. And I want to show you how to do it. It's going to be real quick. And the first thing I want to do, it's really, really cold out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the engine and let it run for about half an hour just to kind of heat everything up. And basically the key goes on the right. And when you turn the key, you have this little indicator here that typically your diesels have glow plugs. And I was told this doesn't have a glow plug. It has something similar. And that's basically it. So I'm gonna let this truck warm up a little bit and we'll continue. Okay, so this truck's been warming up for about 15 minutes and I'm pretty sure that's plenty of time. So if you look at my truck compared to the garage, it doesn't really fit in the garage. So I have to kind of be outside of the garage, and basically the only thing I really need here is I have some extra drain plugs. I probably don't need to replace it, but if you look at the drain plug, you don't even need a wrench on the drain plug. It just fits right in the socket connection. I use a torque wrench just to tighten the drain plug on the bottom. Just, I don't know, I have the torque wrench available, I might as well use it. And then basically what I use is a really long extension. This is for my oil filter here. And I'll show you where the oil filter is. It is kind of buried, like down in here somewhere. and the only way you can really get to it is underneath. And it's really easy to get to underneath, actually. And then what you need is a really big pan for the oil. So that's basically it. I'm going to sit my hat down and I'm going to show you basically how I do this. Okay, so I took off just the connection here, and I have to turn it so it loosens. And to kind of give you a perspective, here's the license plate, and we're crawling underneath. It is kind of rainy and snowy, so I might get dripped on a little bit, but basically the plug is right here on the oil pan. Oh, I turned it the wrong way. And wow, it's really tight. There we go. And once you get it started, it's pretty easy. And what I do is I just kind of get the pan right underneath and then just kind of turn it and move my hand real quick until it pops. And then I just let it drain. Okay, from here, basically just for this video I'm going to use a new drain plug. And I don't typically let it, completely drain. I just jump right into it. And this diesel oil that's used, it it really stains everything. So you really have to keep it from getting on your clothes unless you want stained clothes. So then from here, I use my torque wrench and basically just put it right in and turn it until it clicks, and you can kind of hear it. Maybe. Oh, I can't quite do it with one hand. Here we go. So that's the noise you're listening for on a torque wrench, and basically that noise says that you have it torqued to your torque wrench setting. Okay, so I switched back to my other wrench, and basically I took off a couple extensions, didn't need them all, and the filter is, if you can see it, it's way up here. And it's really hard to get to it from the top, but it's easy from the bottom. And you can see it kind of comes down to here. And I definitely want this pan underneath when I loosen it. Okay, so basically what I did is I loosened it just a couple turns, and then from here I could just unscrew it. And it doesn't really leak when you take it off, usually. If you keep it upright, and it's pretty easy at that point. Okay, so here is the new filter. It's a really big one. And what I do is I just take the cap from the oil, put a little oil in it, and then just work just a little bit of oil around the rubber seal, just enough so it gets a good seal. Okay, then from here, what you want to do is put the new filter in, and you really have to make sure you don't get dirt in the filter. So it's kind of have to watch it go all the way up, and then once you get it, you can kind of just screw it on, and then so it's basically just hand tight. And then some people say that you really don't need to put the wrench on it anymore, but I like to give it just a little kind of a snug, maybe half a turn, just to kind of crank it. Okay, so we got the drain plug back on. Make sure you have the drain plug and the filter on. And this is basically where you fill it. Real easy. So actually for this part, I typically don't even use a funnel. Sometimes I can do it without spilling any. Sometimes I spill a lot. But it's right on top, right in the middle. Normally I can get away with hardly spilling any at all. So normally what I do after I add a couple quarts is I look underneath just for any leaks, and I've actually seen people do this without putting the drain plug back in. So that's one thing you have to watch. Okay, so I just added 3 gallons, and actually before I do that I can wipe this up a little bit. You always make sure not to kind of drop anything in there. This engine is pretty clean. I power wash it quite a bit when I wash the vehicle, just to make sure nothing gets in there. And put the cap on, and that's pretty much it. So another thing I do is I basically reset the trip counter, and that basically tells me when my last oil change was. Okay, another thing I'll do is I'll start the engine and then kind of rev it a little bit. And that kind of works the oil through the new oil filter, because that oil filter is basically empty until it runs some oil through it. Alright, then kind of one last thing that I do is I check the dipstick And I've done this so many times, I really don't have to check it because I know it holds exactly so many quarts, basically 3 gallons with the filter. And basically just verify. So here we're not quite level. It's definitely in the safe zone. Sometimes I'll bring it to like a gas station, and if it's a little bit low, I'll top it up and make sure it's at a good level. Okay, then one last thing as far as cleanup, I always like to really just kind of get all the oil out of my oil container here. And if you notice how black this oil is, you wouldn't believe it, after like 500 miles diesel oil turns that black and it looks like it's 10,000 miles old. So basically I throw these paper towels away, and then I will bring this oil to my local parts supply store, and most of them will recycle oil. So that's it for the oil change on my Dodge Ram 3500. And if you noticed, it was real easy. We didn't even have to put it up on a lift, which saves a lot of time. And you know, you get up on some of those crazy lifts, and that can be a little hair-raising at times too. So I mean, we didn't even have to lift it. We just crawled right under and got to work, and it was, I'd say you could probably do an oil change in about 15 minutes or less. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.